Hi folks, this is Mark Smith with Family Tree Brand Life Coaches. The last time I did a regular video, I did it live and it gave people a chance to visit and hang out. So I just thought, what the heck? I'm just going to make that a pattern. So you might be wondering, why is there a live stream with Family Tree on Sunday? It's because I just thought it'd be fun. So I won't be chit-chatting with very many of y'all. If you should appear on the show, I'm going to share some poetry with y'all. So don't tune out. Take your hand off that switcher. I got some killer, meaningful, deep, powerful, healing, narcissistically abusive, recovery-based poetry that'll knock your socks off. So hang with me. And I have 4 poems. 3 are by famous poets, and they're just killer. One's by me, and not so much of a killer, but you be the judge of that. Okay. The title of this video is Promise of a True Home After Narcissistic Abuse. What many of us go through is the home that we had, that we thought was a genuine home of belonging, turned out to not be so much what we thought it was, and then we're searching for a new home. Some of you don't actually lose your home physically. Many of you do, most of you do. But it feels like a different home. It feels like a different life. So that's the theme of these 4 poems, is finding a true home. Where do you find a true home? You find a true home in yourself. You heal your wounds. You differentiate yourself. You find your place in the family of things. The first poem is Wild Geese by the fabulous East Coast poet Mary Oliver. She starts with a startling line. You do not have to be good. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about your despair, yours, and I will tell you of mine. Tell me about your despair, yours, and I will tell you about mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes as they are today in Indianapolis, over the prairies and the deep trees and the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese fly high in the clean blue air, and they're heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. Mary Oliver. I'm going to read the poems twice, the second time with commentary. You do not have to be good. That's recovery from shame. So many of us carry around boatloads of shame in our hearts, and we don't feel entitled, and that is what made us vulnerable to monsters and narcissists. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. What does that mean? That means having joy. That means finding things that put a skip in your step and put a smile on your face. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. You might love bicycling. I like motorcycle riding. My Harley, the engine died in my Harley. And it's going to be quite expensive to repair and quite lengthy. But I do have a backup motorcycle, a little red one, 1985 Honda Nighthawk, and took it down to the Sacred River in Broad Ripple yesterday, and it performed admirably. That's what I love to do. Tell me about your despair, yours, and I will tell you about mine. Tell me about your despair, yours, and I will tell you about mine. Intimacy. The first lines were about shame, recovery. The second lines were about intimacy and depth and a deep conversation and a live conversation. Raggedy the cat. I don't want no pickle. I just want to ride my bicycle, she says. Isn't that a song? Meanwhile, the world goes on. The sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees and the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. That's the vision, that's the picture of this poetry and of this process of narcissistic abuse recovery. And that is, if all goes well and you are thriving, then you're flying high, my friend. You're above the clouds, and you are headed for your true home. You are headed for safety. You are headed for blessing. You are headed for respect. You are headed for honor. You are headed for nurturing. You are headed for the safety of your true home. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imaginations to make the world whatever it is that you want the world to be, to mold the world to your liking. The world offers itself up to your imaginations. I can imagine some really cool stuff. How about you? I imagine living by the beach and writing books that help people. Where were we in the poem here? Your imagination calls to you like the wild geese. The geese are calling, y'all. Harsh and exciting as they look at what it's like to fly high above it all and to fly toward something safe and real, home, a true home. And over announcing your place in the family of things. I'm going to go in my second poem, also with the great poet Mary Oliver, in her fabulous poem, The Journey. One day, you finally knew what you had to do, and you began. Though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble, and you felt the old tug at your ankles, "Mend my life," each voice cried. But you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do. Though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations through their melancholy, though their melancholy was terrible. It was already late, and a wild night it was, and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind you, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice. There was a new voice, which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save. Mary Oliver. One day, you finally knew what you had to do. I believe that's part of our recovery process, folks, is we have to make major decisions from time to time. Courageous decision, bold decisions, out of character decisions, decisions that shake things up. But if you know it in your bones, you're going to do it, and you're going to have joy while you do. I'm experiencing this in my life. Though the voices around you keep shouting their bad advice, though the whole house begins to tremble. If you're going to be different, if you're going to make a significant change, the whole house is going to begin to tremble. And you felt the old tug at your ankles. "Mend my life," each voice cried. "Mend my life." In other words, don't go to the true house where you belong. Stay here and take care of me instead. Sorry, I got a squeaky chair situation going on here. But you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do. Though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible. It was already late enough, and a wild night, and a road full of fallen branches and stones. If you're going to break out of your mold and make courageous choices and go where you're supposed to go and do what you're supposed to do, if you're going to fly high like the geese above the cloud line, if you're going to head to your true home, there's going to be stiff fingers of the wind, the cold wind. There's going to be house shaking. There's going to be a road with fallen branches and stone. It's going to be late into the evening. It's going to be hard. It ain't easy to reinvent yourself. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, people that mean well, but are giving you what's best for them and not what's best for you. And the stars begin to burn through the sheets of clouds. And there was a new voice, which you slowly recognized as your own voice that kept you company. As you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save. Empaths and codependents have a tendency to live too much for other folks, and they don't live enough for themselves. And we need to learn how to live more for ourselves and less for pleasing other people. Correct? Okay, I'm leaving the magical Mary Oliver, and I'm going to share with you another one of my favorite poems, Derek Walcott, Love After Love, on this theme of finding a true home. We're going to get a water break in between the poems. Love after love. The time will come when, with elation, you will greet yourself arriving at your own door, in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome and say, "Sit here, eat." You will love again the stranger who was yourself. Give wine, give bread, give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you. All your life, the stranger who loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another, who knows you by heart. Give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another, who knows you by heart. Take down the love letters from the bookshelves and the photographs, the desperate notes. Peel your own image from the mirror. Sit. Feast on your life. Derek Walcott. The time will come when, with elation, you will greet yourself arriving at your own door in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome. It may not seem like there's going to be joy for you. You might be fresh in your narcissistic abuse pain. It may not seem like there'll be elation, but keep working, keep reading, keep crying, keep doing yoga, keep doing meditation, keep doing EMDR, keep exercising, keep relying on community. You'll get better. Sit. They'll smile at each other's welcome and say, "Sit here, eat. You will love again the stranger who was yourself." For many of us, this is about loving the stranger who was ourself for the very first time. We didn't know how to love ourselves. Give wine, give bread, give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another. You gave your life to an imposter. You gave your life to a fraud because you didn't know how to love yourself. You will love again the stranger who was yourself. Give wine, give bread, give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another, for a narcissist, for a borderline. This stranger who knows your heart. Take down the love letters from the bookshelf, the photographs, the desperate notes. Peel your own image from the mirror. Sit. Feast on your life, my friends. Take the big picture of your life, of the good moments of your childhood. I know some of you didn't have any good moments in your childhood, but most of us had some. And treasure the good moments with your children. And take joy in your calling. Take joy in the many gifts that you have in your personality and, your skill set. And celebrate who you are. There's only one of you. And feast on your life. Celebrate your life. Don't wait until it's your funeral to feast on your life. Feast on your life now. Take joy in who you are now. There's nobody on the planet who brings the special gifts to the world that you do, my friends. Okay. Now the fourth poem by a little-known poet named Mark Smith. And it is entitled Promise of Home. Yesterday, I laid down in a bed of clover by the sacred river. Raggedy Cat says, woo-hoo. Yesterday, I laid down in a bed of clover by the sacred river, blanketed by deep peace and sweet slumber. When I came back, as if from the dead to the living world, I noticed a boy paddling mightily, trying to make his way upstream. Yesterday, I laid down in a bed of clover by the sacred river, blanketed by deep peace and sweet slumber. He was stout, this lad, and no matter how hard he thrashed about, his heavily weighted canoe drifted ever backwards, away from the safety of home. Yesterday, I lay down in a bed of clover by the sacred river, blanketed by deep peace and sweet slumber. When the edge of my dreams gave way to murky consciousness, I saw the boy give up on his paddling, pick up the canoe with great frustration and clumsiness, and then meekly resign himself to dragging his cursed vessel in the rocks behind him, defeated. Yesterday I did lay down in a bed of clover by the sacred river, blanketed by deep peace and sweet slumber. When the haze and the grogginess again of my sleep gave way to clarity, I noticed that finally the boy had relaunched his wieldy, dusty vessel upstream, finding blessed momentum and the promise of home in the deep waters. Yesterday, I lay down in a bed of clover by the sacred river, blanketed by deep peace and sweet slumber. I don't know about y'all, but I sometimes find myself very vigorously paddling upstream to no avail. The harder I paddle, the more backwards I go in life. And I sometimes reconnoiter the situation, get the boat out of the water, try to take hold of it, but there's anger and there's fumblings. And I'm not, cruising upriver. I'm dragging my wagon, dragging my boat behind me, defeated, angry, fumbling, defeated, unable to acquire a solid grip on the circumstances of my life, but ultimately always relaunching out into the world, finding courage and God's speed and the promise of home in the deeper waters. You know where you find the promise of home? You find it in the deep waters. His problem was he weighed too much and he didn't have enough water. He had too much ore and not enough water to get anywhere. But he got in the deep waters and his boat did the work and he started getting upriver toward home. And that's just like us. Many times we're carrying more weight than we possibly can carry, and we just don't make progress. And even though we're mightily working at the paddling, we have to find the deep waters of our emotional healing. We have to find the deep waters of understanding and insight. I believe I've been underplaying the power and the value of knowing the narcissist. I had a consultation with HD Tutor yesterday and was just blown away by all that I could learn about the various attacks that I'm experiencing from goblins and monsters and trolls and, vampires in the world. So that's deep water too. Finding courage and Godspeed and the promise of home, of a true home in the deep waters. Yesterday, I lay down in a bed of clover by the sacred river, blanketed by deep peace and sweet slumber. Mark Smith. I wish you the strength to acquire a solid grip on the circumstances of your life, and the courage and the strength to ultimately relaunch out into the world. And I wish you Godspeed. And I wish you the safety and the specialness and the sacredness and the promise of a true home. You will locate that paddling around in deep waters. Thank you, Martha. You will locate all the goodies I'm talking about paddling around in your own deep waters of tears, of gutting it through, of creativity, of faith, of community. So, I hope these words have offered you an opportunity to feast on the words. I hope they have spoken to you. I hope they give you courage. I hope they give you insight. I hope they bless your socks off. You might want to watch it several times and just let the poetry sink in. There's encouragement, and there's light, and there's love in these poems. Thanks, Raggedy the cat. Well, I'm going to sign off. It's a rainy Sunday, and hopefully we're going to have a guest for the live stream on Tuesday. We're supposed to have HD Tutor, but it's 6 hours later there. So it would be like 2 o'clock in the morning for him. So that may or may not happen. We're trying to make it happen, but he's got travel the next day. But hopefully he'll be there. And he describes himself as a narcissist and somebody who understands those guys and gals very well, and he does. So come prepared with questions. If you have a particularly nasty goblin and ghost and parasite that you want some coaching on, come with questions and he'll blow your mind. Thank you for watching today, my friends. Wishing you blessing and a true home. God bless.